Welcome to episode 73 of the Forward from 50 podcast, where we interview people over 50 who are pursuing new direction for their lives. It's an opportunity for men and women to tell their stories, their way, and in their own words. I'm Greg Gerber, the founder of Forward from 50, and your host for today's show. Today I'm speaking with a woman who felt pressured to conform to the expectations of others starting in middle school. Yet, by setting aside who she was as a person, she felt unfulfilled until she made some changes to embrace her natural purpose. Angelia Hayes eventually came to understand that she was made in God's image and likeness. Consequently, she didn't need someone else's approval to have value in herself. Nor did she need to scale back her ambitions just because it meant other people were uncomfortable with her using her God-given talent. Angelia was raised in a very small town with a population under 3,000 people. Even in that environment, she felt pressured to conform and blend in just to please others. That is the wrong attitude people need today, said Angelia. Every person has value to his or her life, especially young women. Consequently, Angelia is passionate about helping women who are struggling with their own identity and trying to figure out their purpose in life. She also found a way to support herself on her own as a mobile notary, which allows Angelia to have more control over her own schedule to give her more freedom to engage in activities dear to her heart. To tell us about her book titled More Than Meets the Eye, Made in His Image, please welcome author Angelia Hayes to the show. Thanks for joining me today, Angelia. I really appreciate the time. Tell us how you came about this idea for writing a book More Than Meets the Eye.
Yes, thank you for having me, Greg. It's a pleasure to be here. My idea from coming to writing More Than Meets the Eye was I began to do some reflection on my life, all the way back from childhood up to, I would say probably around my early 40s. And I reflected on some previous relationships and could see where some of those relationships that specifically was gentlemen, they were more interested in me as far as my appearance and my look on my body and all of that more than they were interested in the person.
Mm-hmm.
And so I looked at some more things as I transitioned through life, through school, high school and middle school and all of that, and how people were really caught up on individuals' images and how they look. And because you looked a certain way or didn't look a certain way, certain things happen for you or to you. And as it looks like in our society. So I took all of that and even brought it fast forwarded to today's world, how our society teaches us that about image. But we have to understand that we were made in God's image and in his likeness and start pulling out all the multifacets, the beauty that God had put.
It's sad when you think about it, how we are conditioned from very early in childhood to judge people based on their images. By the time you get to middle school, it's all that matters to kids is how they look and their appearance, what brand of jeans you wear. For crying out loud, who cares as long as they're blue and they don't have holes in them? Yeah. But now you buy them with holes in them to look cool. So it's just crazy. Yes. Where did you grow up?
I'm from the rural area, so I'm a country girl. And the little community I grew up in was called Ghost Ferry, and it is in Brazoria County. And so I went to school in Swinney, Texas, so small town.
That sounds like it's small. Okay, very good. So yes. Even in a small town, you ran into these things where people were judging people based on appearances.
Absolutely.
How old were you before you realized that was a real problem?
I think it was along about middle school. So I would say along about 6th or 7th grade, I started really realizing it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And that's about the same time that people start exploring relationships and they make the relationships about popularity contests and doing, in fact, it was sad to me when I was raising my 3 daughters, when they got into middle school age, how tempted they were to abandon who they were as people to conform to the demands of the group.
Exactly. And I faced some of that going through school in some of my friends' circles and all of that. And I just was not ever the person to blend in. For some reason, I always stood out. I wasn't able to conform. I tried. I'm not saying I didn't try. I tried. But even in my feelings and my emotions, I could even sense that it was something different about me. And I would try to conform, but within myself, I was uncomfortable because I knew I did. So yeah. So
Wow.
it's very not, and I didn't at that time really realize and understood like I do now the beauty and the unique gifts and talents God has placed in me and the purpose of them.
What prompted you to write the book then? You got to a certain point in your life where you decided this message needs to be shared. What was it that prompted you to do that?
I started thinking about like younger generations. I started thinking about women. I have a passion for women. I've encountered over the years in so many different aspects. And I could see where a lot of women struggle with their identity, who they are, and their purpose. And not really, and comparison. I don't want to leave that out. Comparing themselves to the next woman, to the next thing, the next greatest person, and all of that. And so they wasn't really tapping into the true essence of who they were. And so that really weighed heavy on my heart. And being one that had walked through a lot of that, I wanted to tell my story, but I also, in the process, I want to be able to help other young ladies and women bring out their true expression of who God has created them to be.
What is it about comparison that makes us do that? Why is it that we always have to judge ourselves in comparison to other people?
Yeah. We, as society, has taught us that. A lot of the things that we see in media, we experience, we hear, even certain talk or speech that we hear. Some people have been, unfortunately, have heard it in growing up in their homes. And I think that a lot of people were not really validated in who they are and affirmed in who they are. And so it's just, it all comes together. And then when you go to school and you may have bullies that picks on this kid and that kid for whatever reason, like you said, a pair of jeans, a pair of shoes, or their hair is different, a different color, their nose is different. And so all of this comes together. And then you start looking at, if I look like this, but they would like me. So, yeah, it's a lot to deal with.
One thing that I noticed in my daughters when they got to middle school, they were great students in elementary school, getting A's all the time. But when they got into middle school, they started to dumb themselves down to make themselves more popular to the boys. I never figured that out. Why do they do that?
Yeah. Yeah, it's something you said there, Greg, that word right there, dumb yourself down, because that was a revelation that I received from God probably about 3 to 4 years ago. And he spoke expressly to me and said, you will no longer dumb yourself down to fit in or to be accepted by anyone, by men, by circles of friendship or organizations. I want you to be the true expression of who I created you to be. That, and the reason why they do it, because they don't know who they are. They don't know their identity. They don't know how beautiful and beautiful they were made. So
I would agree with that. And the acceptance is such an important thing. And at all ages, really, when we start dumbing ourselves down and making ourselves less spectacular than we were created, just to fit in. When you think about it, how many people do you still have contact with that were from high school? Back then, your friends were your life. You did everything with them and for them to make them happy with who you are. And do you still have any of those long-term friendships?
I say on one hand, some of those long-term relationships. So, not very many. And to be candid and to be honest, I don't call Facebook friends real friends. A lot of society helps have you to think that these are your friends. But so I'm connected to a lot of people on social media that I went to school with. That genuine relationship, I may not have talked or seen someone in 6 months to a year, but when I see them, when I speak to them, it's we just picked up where we left off. Those are those genuine relationships. You could call anytime. You can send a message anytime. And we're still genuinely there for one another. So yeah, I have very few of those from school.
What separates a genuine relationship from a typical friendship?
Genuine relationship. I go back to the word. I think it's in Proverbs when he talks about a friend and a brother. A friend is like a family member, a brother, a sister, and they're born for adversity. So when you're going through hardships, challenges, they're there for you. Or if you've been out of contact with them, you can call them and they're still there for you. And they can be there with an encouraging word, with a prayer, or if there's some kind of monetary challenge involved. They may be even there on that aspect or some sort of counseling. A genuine friend doesn't judge you for what you've gone through or what you are facing or what even sometimes decisions that you didn't make that were so favorably. They would still be there and love you and also give you the truth in love.
That's important.
It's very important. Those are a lot of the differences for me. And they have a form of loyalty. There's a sense of loyalty there, irregardless.
That's a very good point. The loyalty is essential, especially in today's culture where relationships are expendable based on what you can do for me or even more importantly, what have you done for me lately? Yeah. You had mentioned how sometimes friends are closer than family. And I don't know, there are a lot of families that aren't close at all. So I don't know if that's a good relationship or a good description in the Bible or not. But in today's culture, especially, the families just seem to drift further and further apart. And those forced, one friend of mine referred to it as a forced family versus a found family. So the found family are those friends who you form together as a family and they become your new family.
That's true. Yep. Yes.
And they also,
I'll agree with it.
They also tend to call people out for what's best in them. How do you develop a friendship like that is so close that you're willing to allow him or her to speak truth into your life?
I think that true relationships, genuine relationships, are develop over time. And to build a good relationship, you have to take time to learn one another and understand one another and communicate effectively. And I have friends that are in human resources and they just have a natural knack for showing you, should I say, the real. And so I learned as I built my relationship with her that this is who she is. She's gifted in this area. She can see this. And so it's all about learning who a person is. And you can see that they really have your best interest at heart. And they're not saying something to you to discredit you, but they're saying something to you to make you better or to enlighten you or impart wisdom into you. And those are to me, some of the best friends. Now, I'm a person when I have a friend like that, they share something with me. I may not like it, but I don't dispute it. I'll listen to it. I'll go and process it. And then, then I can see what they were saying was what I needed versus what I wanted to hear.
How else are you going to learn your blind spots if somebody doesn't come in and say, hey, wait a minute, do you know that you really do this kind of thing? It's annoying. And and then you can say, hey, wait a minute, I do. And that is annoying. Yes. I can agree. And you can go ahead and change.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I love that, Greg, because I have a sister. I grew up together and we are like friends too. And so I've learned so many things from her over the years. And she will point out some, like you say, blind spots and vice versa. And sometimes with siblings, the delivery is not always the way we desire it to be. But then I think about it. You know what? She's right about that. Or at that time, I'm like, oh, you know what? You're absolutely right. But I may not necessarily have seen it from that perspective.
That's right. Yeah, that unique perspective is very important. It requires trust and vulnerability. And that can be tricky because we do not like to be vulnerable to other people. But when we find those friends that we can be vulnerable with, we really need to take advantage of that.
Yeah, I agree with that. Yeah, because it's almost like you can just let your hair down.
Exactly. That's right. If you are vulnerable,
totally open.
Yeah, you don't have the masks on anymore. And so you can be who you are. And those kind of relationships are very special. And you're right. You're not going to get that on Facebook. Facebook, Instagram, all of that is about portraying the very best of us and the best of our lives. And people don't generally share where they're struggling and things like that. So do all of your close friends like that? Do you meet with them one-on-one or in person, or do you have relationships like that can take place over a distance?
Yeah, I do have some that are over a distance, but I do have some of them that are one-on-one, up close and personal. And some, they may live about 50 miles from me, so I don't get to see them all the time. So I'll talk to them, over the phone, but it's still like family, irregardless. I think that the distance for me doesn't even come into play when there's a true connection or a real genuine relationship for me. The distance is not an issue for me.
You'd mentioned in your book that sometimes we try to acquire friends simply for the attention of someone with influence, power, or leadership. And that's not a good way to develop a relationship. It doesn't seem like it works to develop trust because you want something from other people. What should we do in those kinds of situations if we want to get the influence or get the attention of somebody from influence, but we don't want them to feel like they're being used? Is there a way to do that?
Yeah, I believe that. Show up authentically without ulterior motives. So that is going to always require us to do that introspection work. Check our hearts, make sure our heart and our motives are pure in any relationship, project, anything that we're endeavoring to do, to check our heart and our motives and just show up in our authentic self. Because whomever God intends for you to develop a relationship with or make connections with, maybe for a greater good and a greater cause, it's going to happen organically when you show up as your true self, as your authentic self. It's going to happen. And what happens is it happens so fast sometimes, and it happens in a way that we could never have put it together. We could never have knitted it together. So when you are true to who God has created you to be, those relationships will connect and they will begin to flourish.
We have to, at some point, exactly the purpose. At some point, we have to be willing to give back, though, to other people, and we have to serve them somehow. I heard of a story recently that I thought was rather neat about how another family kept coming over all the time and borrowing things from them. The mother in the family that was lending out would sometimes go back to that other family and borrow things like salt. Her son's, wait a minute, we have all the salt that we need. Why are you going to borrow salt? And she said, because it's something they can give to us as well, so that they can feel like they're contributing to our lives. And sometimes we have to be willing to accept whatever people feel they can contribute, because maybe that's all they can contribute at that point.
That's true. That is true. I agree with that. And to serve should be our number one goal, because that's what we are. And when we do that, oh my God, it just makes you feel so much better because you've done, what you're designed to do. We're designed to serve each other.
You'd also mentioned trying to make something happen by controlling the situation. Why is that, or what should we be doing instead?
Well, one thing we should be doing is trusting the process and learning the lessons as we continue to journey on. Trust the process. Trust God in all of that process. Because when we try to make things happen for us, then it's a true sign that we're trying to take his place. We're trying to do it in our own strength. But unless he has given us that grace for it to happen, it won't happen. And so we have to be as children. We have to depend on our Heavenly Father. But in the meantime, as we're depending on him, we still need to do our part in which what he has instructed us to do. Or it may just be some simple instruction. Our teacher may have told us, our friend, our counselor, our therapist. It can be anybody. It could be something simple that we need to be doing along that journey and being opening our heart up to trusting God in the whole thing. So making it happen. I've been there so many times. It's something that you asked that because I was thinking about that this morning, and I was just really grateful, and I could see how I've done that. I've been there, done that, and it is exhausting.
And it's really unfulfilling for you when you're trying to seek something like power and influence from someone else, because it makes you feel almost dirty, like you're trying to take something that you don't deserve. Something else that is missing from a relationship is that we have to be contributors to it as well. So how can you best contribute, even if you don't think you have anything to offer?
Yeah, I mean, I believe in assessment, but you know that, like in the book, I have a free assessment. So it's self-assessment and taking us out of the way, in a sense, and becoming less selfish and finding out what is it that other individual or party need or desires. Because sometimes it's a desire that we can meet for someone else. What is it that they need? What is it that they love? Even when you think about gifts, when we buy people gifts, that's something that I had to grow out of. When I go into the store, I'm shopping for someone's gift, birthday gift. Then I start shopping for myself. No, you're not. Now, understand, I'm not here for me. I'm here for someone else. And so you have to see what it is. Okay, what does that person like? And so it's more or less looking into someone else's need and their desires and giving in the capacity in which you can give to them. Yeah. And once you take yourself out the equation, everything else flows along.
That's a very good point. Popular motivational speaker and longtime guru Zig Ziglar had the best saying. He said, you can have anything you want in life as long as you help enough other people get what they want. You say that now is the time to stop, turn, and focus your lenses on the internal dialogue that is happening in you. Self-talk is super important. Why is that?
Because life and death is in the power of our tongue. And whatever we speak about ourselves, over ourselves, and about others, our words are so powerful that they take on form, they take on shapes. You go back to science class, you know, how we learn about molecules, cells, and all that. We are made up of cells. Our Creator spoke everything into this earth into being. And so he has given us that same power to create and to frame our world. So our words are so powerful. And so we have to be careful in what we say.
We're also created for a time such as this. We're put on the earth at this particular time, given these natural talents. We've learned all these skills. We've had these amazing experiences. And for what? To sit on the golf course or go out fishing every day by yourself? Probably not. We are designed. There's something inside that wants to give back, to make the world a better place, to help other people.
Yes, absolutely. Make others better. You know what I'm saying? Just give out everything that is within you. One of the great teachers, Dr. Miles Monroe, he says, when you die, you want to die. You have poured out everything like that was given to you, because we have our gifts, talents, and we've developed skills over time in different areas. And that God has an expectation of us. He's looking for an ROI, a return on his investment.
That's right. The parable of talent taught us that in the Bible, right?
Yes.
What did you do for a living before you turned 50?
Worked in local government, in municipal courts. I was actually a court administrator where I oversaw the operations of the court. And I was the custodial of record.
Okay. So you maintained all the
Mhm.
court records?
Yes.
Oh my
I was
goodness, that would have
responsible
been
for that.
challenging. Yeah.
Yeah.
Are you
Well,
are you still doing that?
no, I'm not. I have transitioned into being a full-time entrepreneur and authorized speaker. Yes, I have.
Super.
Yeah. It happened like that. I served in local government for 24 years, and that story is in the anthology of faith, Telling Our Stories, Volume 2. And my chapter was called Pushed into Purpose.
I love that. Tease a little bit about that. How were you pushed into purpose?
I was pushed out of the workplace. Just suddenly, I found myself on administrative leave under an investigation. And for about 4 weeks or a month, the 1 week turned into 4 weeks. So when I went back for the final meeting with the city manager, I was told that I would be terminated. And then I countered the offer because at that time I was eligible for retirement. And so I was able to retire. And then from there, during that 4 weeks I was out, I was able to do the introspective work, return and turn my face back to prayer and to God in full repentance and just trusting Him to see what was going to be next. And so as I journeyed on, that's how the writing just started coming out of me. And I connected with Phyllis Jenkins with Powerful Journey. And she and her team helped me birth out that story and all that I walked through. So it is a story of healing, hope, and restoration.
That is a nice story. And it's sad in a way because it's happened to so many other people. It's just so tough because we have so much we want to give at our age.
Yes.
And we have so much we can give at our age. And yet society keeps pushing us further and further out. So you turned that push into momentum to go into a completely different direction. And I love that. Are you offering classes or doing speaking and things like that now?
Yes, I am doing speaking engagements of different types. Yeah, I'm doing motivation speaking. I'm going into colleges. I'm working on getting into high schools, women's retreats, anything with conferences, workshops, and empowerment. So any of that sort as well. And and then I'm also a minister. So my story comes out when I'm teaching the word, not even much. And people have really been enlightened and healed even during that part of it as well. So yes, I am currently working on a mentorship program. So that will be a lot of my teaching as well.
I just ran into a press release yesterday and posted it on the Forward from 50 website about a woman who is encouraging women to be mentors to other women. And she said that the younger women are looking for that. Are they looking for it or do they need it and don't realize that they need it?
Both. I believe those that don't know that they need it, they're looking for it, but they're looking for it in a sometimes not the best way because it's like that void is there. And so they seek out different things that are not favorable for them. But yes, I was at an event this past Saturday. I had the highlighted author and so a lady that has an organization here, a nonprofit that goes into the schools. And she said her organization has gotten so big now that she cannot personally mentor all of these young ladies anymore. So she's wanting me to come on board and be one of the mentors. It's so needed. And she shared a story with me that was featured on our local paper that particular day. How one of the testimonies of one of the young ladies, they saved her through this program from committing suicide.
Wow.
And she has successfully blossomed. So I'm excited about being a part of the organization to help the young ladies in becoming the best version of themselves.
People have a wrong impression about what mentorship really is. I'm glad to hear that you are looking to mentor other people and encouraging them in that way.
Yes, because it's important. And I'm glad you said that because mentorship is about building a relationship. Because once you build a relationship, then you feel comfortable in being open.
I agree.
Yeah.
That was scary, though, to be starting over again after you turned 50, to be leaving a long-time job to pursue another direction. Was it? And what did you do to overcome it?
Oh, my goodness. Well, first of all, I would say I never thought I would find myself there, right?
Yes.
And yeah. So yes, it was scary. I'm just so grateful for destiny helpers, such as Miss Phyllis. And then at the time I was transitioning in my life in some other places, ministerial wise. And God just sent me the destiny helpers. And so that was key to me being able to continue transitioning out of that phase. It was scary. And what I can say is this, that it has built my faith muscles and have really helped me to understand more of my identity. Because most times when you talk to people, you ask them, who will say, oh, I would have said, oh, I work for the city of, I don't want to call the name of the city, such and such, and I'm a court administrator. I'm this, I'm that, I do this. But I cannot any longer wear that label. And so I could not use that as a crutch or a mask because that's not who I was. So I was able to successfully transition. Was it challenging? Yes.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it was.
For men particularly, we are so tied up into that title and the status that the title of our work gives us, that when that's taken away from us, either by choice when we choose to retire and step away, or by force when we're forced out of jobs or things that we love to do, that can be devastating to people. And
and it was.
I can imagine it's a big hit to your self-esteem because you lose that sense of purpose. But it sounds like you quickly recovered that sense of purpose. And how did you do that? So is there something that happened that pointed you in the direction of the powerful journey?
It started when I was on administrative leave.
Okay.
And those 4 weeks when I just opened myself up to God and I listened to what he told me about me. And he also prepared me. He showed me in a dream what was going to happen as far as termination. So I was prepared when I went to that last meeting. So that journey started there. And also the destiny helpers. That was how I was able to really, I'm telling you, to get through this thing. And they challenged me as well, though. So I was able to dig more deeper into studying my word and prayer, and a lot of things opened up to me. God revealed a lot of things to me about me. So I was on a journey with he and what I was facing and what needed to happen with me. And even some of the things that I needed to discard, what I needed to rid myself of. And it was so many beautiful discoveries on this journey. I talk about in my book, the first chapter, DNA in Me. Even on that journey, my father, after 49 years, that information came to me. And so I'm currently building that relationship now with that other side of my family. So it was prayer. It was studying of the word. It was people that were in my corner. I have a friend that's a counselor. I sought her counseling and she helped me. I had family members that kept me encouraged and supported me throughout the whole process. So it was a whole community.
Did you have to learn any new skills to do this?
Yeah, for my business, my notary signing services and mobile notary, I have honed my skills even more. What I would say is, as working in local government, I was always a notary. And so it wasn't until the last probably 10 years that I began to discover there was a niche in a market for individuals that needed the service to monetize it. And that's what I had began to step into the arena of what we call notary signing agent. That I took it to another level. So I had to learn that skill. But I started honing that skill the year before I got pushed out of my job.
It's almost as though there's somebody up above directing you to do that because they knew it was coming ahead a year later.
Yes, because I had talked about it here and there with other people I knew over a few years back, but I never just did the research and really make a decision to do it. But it was a coach that I had at the time that challenged me to think about what was it that I could do, that I could monetize one of my skills. And I was sitting at work one day and it was just like, the Lord dropped it in my spirit. And I came home that evening and I began to research it and I took it from there.
You don't realize what is available until those kinds of things happen. Yes. And so that's neat.
Right.
So you became a notary public. So you provide the same services that I would get by taking documents to a bank, except you come to people's houses.
Absolutely. I come to their houses, meet them at Starbucks. I love Starbucks in the parking lot. But one of the main things, there's another side to it. When I say notary signing agent, that's another part of it that required another credential, another certification and skill as well. And that's the notary signing agent is one who does the facilitation of real estate closes.
Okay. That makes sense. Yeah. So instead of going to the title company, they can come to you and get the documents signed.
Most times I'm going to them, whether it's their home.
That's right.
Sometimes I go to the realtor's office or the title company, but it's always the place or a law office because in the state of Texas, there's certain type of closes that have to be done at a title or a law office. But yeah, for the most part, it's done at the convenience of the signer.
Would you have any advice for people over the age of 50 on how to identify and pursue their passions?
Yes, I would say, again, I'm a person of introspection work, doing that discovery, self-discovery. Something as practical as sitting down with yourself, quiet your mind, quiet your soul, and get a journal, get a tablet, and start writing the things that you are good at. And reflect, think about what is it that people has said to you that you're good at. Mm-hmm. Because what people are telling you most of the times is on.
That's right.
And so begin to list them out, bullet to them out, or however you want to do it. And once you finish that list, I did this. And initially my list was probably over 50 things. I was shocked. Yeah. So I would practical, because I like to be very practical, just something simple. Start writing the things that you are good at and the things that you love, that you are passionate about.
That's a very good point. A lot of us, we know we're good at something, but we take it for granted. It comes so easy to us. It's who is going to ever pay me to want to provide this service where you're naturally gifted? That's where you should be providing that service. What's easy for you is very difficult for other people.
That is true. And that's really the simple and short of it. And then you just begin to and then after that, start compartmentalizing those things. And then you'll start creating some goals around it, what you want to accomplish, and research. So research is very important.
How can people connect with you if they'd like to just know more about you and what you do?
Yes, they can go to Amazon. I have an author's page there. They can follow me on Amazon and also on social media sites. I am on Facebook as Angelia Hayes and Instagram and LinkedIn. So they can contact me there. You can email me at uniquelyyours20@yahoo.com. And I have a YouTube channel, Angelia Hayes.
Very good. Thank you so much for sharing your story for me today. It's inspirational to me in that you were caught off guard by a sudden change in which you were forced to take a different direction. But rather than scale back and just break down and dwell on the misfortune that came your way, it empowered you to move into a different direction. With God's help, pointing in the way that you should go. And I thank you for your faithful testimony today. I appreciate it.
Yes, thank you for having me, Greg.
I was glad to interview Angelia Hayes, the author of More Than Meets the Eye, Made in His Image, and I'm very appreciative she took the time to share her story with us today. As the father of 3 girls, it literally broke my heart to watch my normally smart, intelligent, and driven daughters dumb themselves down in middle school. They did so just to be more acceptable to boys who were threatened in the presence of confident young women. It happened to all 3 of my daughters. Comparison to others works to kill talent, dreams, and goals. Eventually, my daughters learned to be comfortable being who God made them to be. Angelia came to the same conclusion when she determined God did not want her dumbing herself down just to be accepted by others. Angelia noted how disingenuous social media can be by encouraging people, especially women, to wear public masks and develop superficial relationships instead of deep, committed, and loyal friendships. After working in municipal government overseeing the operations of a local court, Angelia decided it was time to take control of her own career. She opened her mobile notary service and took the extra step of becoming a notary signing agent in order to complete real estate closings. Her advice to people over 50 is to engage in a process of self-discovery. First, after quieting your mind and soul, make a list of all the things you're good at doing. Then, after reviewing the list, 1 or 2 things will just pop out from the others as though they're beckoning you to pursue them with full passion. People can connect with Angelia on Facebook, LinkedIn, and YouTube, or via email at uniquelyyours28@yahoo.com. That's all I have for this week's show. I'll have another interview on the next episode of the Forward from 50 podcast. Thank you for listening.